Hello everybody, welcome back to a new video. I got a post on a Reddit, I got a comment on a Reddit post which asked to talk about atmospheres in tracks, atmospheric sounds, kind of pads which can be used to, add more depth to a track other than just your lead elements and your kick and your bass. So I kind of want to go about doing that today and kind of showing my process in making them and making them sound decent. And then I'm gonna do a second part to this video where I'm gonna show you how you can process them inside of a track. So let's just jump in. So I've set up a simple project here. As you can see, I have been making a few atmospheres here. If you want to see how I did those, and if you want to see more of this stuff, I've done basically all of these on my Twitch channel, and if you want to see more productions, you should go there. If I'm live, then you can just tune in and see me produce. But for this thing, what I have here is I have two tracks. One of them contains a sample from a sample pack right here somewhere, I believe. Yeah, it's this sample here from a computer music sample pack. And then I have a simple patch here, which is just a pad sound. And I'm kind of going to go over what you can do once you have these very simple sounds and turn them into something a lot more interesting. So let's take a look at the first sound here, which is this very simple patch. As you can see, we have a saw oscillator, and this icon has kick oscillator, which both go through a filter. And then we have a hyper as an effect. A very simple sound. You can see a little bit of modulation here, but it's not really an atmosphere, it's just like a tone, which is not really interesting. So the whole point of atmospheres and pad sounds is that they kind of change over time. So let's say you have a segment of 8 bars and you draw in a note. You kind of want them, you kind of want your atmosphere to kind of progress over this time span into something interesting. Now the length of this note can differ. For example, let's say we want the note to kind of come in a little late and then have a bit of a fade out to it. We would set up something like this. Just a simple envelope on the volume where it kind of shoots up and then it goes back down. And then what you can do is, let's say, instead of having one long note, you can have shorter notes like this, and you will get like a nice pulsating pad sound out of that. Of course, you can keep modifying things over time. Let's say we want the cutoff to, if I go in here, we want the cutoff to go up a bit. This way we have something that kind of opens up over time and makes something more interesting through that, kind of have a progression in there like that. But really, when what is really cool is when you start resampling it. I think resampling is one of the most underused tricks, and I've been using resampling in the last 2 weeks now for all kinds of things, but mostly for these atmosphere sounds. And what you do is you make a new audio track and you just record your output by selecting the input here to be this audio track. Okay, so we'll consolidate this into a clip so we have something to work with here. And now we have this nice atmosphere sound, but it still sounds pretty much like a saw wave being modulated over time, and it's not really interesting. So a trick I like to use is to just add some semitones up and then go to the texture mode here, which you can either go up 24 semitones or you can even go down. You get a more darker sound. So that already makes it a little bit more interesting. But what happens when you say, I like this register, I like this octave? What you then do is you just turn up your MIDI before recording, let's say, two octaves here. So you get this really high sound, and then now, because of the way filters work, you can see we get much more progression this way. You can see that here the note is very short because the cutoff only, because it's higher in tone, the cutoff only really takes the lowest notes, and only when it's really high up will it actually let through any sound. So now if we turn it down, we can hear much more of a change. So I'm going to put it back to texture mode and then turn it down. So now as you can hear, there's much more progression in the whole thing. So I'm going to temporarily consolidate this into a new clip and just open it back up. As you can see, now if we look at the waveform, you can see we have really short notes here, and then they become a bit longer. And then at the end, we just have this whole part being opened. So that's the first trick I tend to use. The second one is stretching. As you can see, we have had the same timing here as here. That meaning that this clip or this recording is the same length as the original source of the track. Another thing you can do if you have your warp turned on and you hold shift is you can stretch out elements. So in this case, I'll let you listen to the original. It's just a very simple drone pad here, a little bit more complex sound than this one. But what we can do is we can stretch it over time. And now this is not going to sound great in beats mode. As you can hear, there are a few like clicks and things like that. So again, we're going to use the texture mode, and I'm going to turn up the grain a bit. And now, as you can hear, we have this same, or this note being extended over a longer time, which is really cool, and it really gets powerful once you start modulating like the grain size and the transposure. You can get some really interesting sounds. So let's just draw in a bit of a random curve here. And as you can see, this works in percentages. So what happens is it looks at this number, and that's going to be 100%, and then 0% will be the slider all the way down. But if you leave it at, let's say, 50%, then this number is going to be 100%. So you can never go above this value. It will always be a percentage of the value you select here. So I tend to just turn it up all the way, and then in the clip I can make any edits if it's too low or too high. So let's say we like this. You can already hear that in some dips it kind of starts to sound like a more chopped up version of it, and that's basically what grain delay does. It kind of chops up the sound into very small elements and then kind of morphs between them in certain ways. And having a really small grain size gets that kind of very fast gated effect, which you sometimes hear. So if I turn it all the way down, you can probably hear individual parts being played. So this would be around here. You can hear how it's basically, instead of a sound, it's becoming a waveform almost, because the grain size is just so low. And now again, we can do the same thing here where we take the transpose and just mess about with it, but this time we're going to mess around with it over time. So let's say we're going to go up 6 and then back down 6. It's a bit of an extreme effect, so we can turn it down a bit, but you can already imagine this being part of a transition. And to make it more of a transition, you could, for example, give it a slight curve in there, so it would go. Oh. You can see how this could be part of a transition from one part of a drop to another, or one section to another in a breakdown, for example. And the real cool part starts happening when you start adding effects like delay and reverb and those kind of things, and extra filters. And I'm gonna go over that in the next video. So if you want to see that, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.